Hello everyone. Today is our session in the course Philosophy and the Baha'i Faith that is devoted to ethics and social philosophy. Now, in the part about social philosophy, we will also talk a little bit about political philosophy. As always, let me begin with some general remarks about ethics. Ethics is a philosophical discipline that investigates the moral principles that guide human behavior. Baha'i ethics, like any other religious ethical system, claims to have a divine origin and foundation. It is also a virtue ethics, that is, the accumulation of virtues or perfections represents the highest moral aspiration for the believers. The notion of human virtues is closely connected with the ideas of evil and free will. The Baha'i writings assert the reality of human free will in the moral sphere. Here is the quotation from some answered questions by Abdul Baha. All the doings of man are sustained by the power of divine assistance, but the choice of good and evil belongs to him alone, end quote. At the same time, they deny the substantiality of evil. The Baha'i writings deny the substantiality of evil, whose existence is relative and simply represents the absence of good, like the shadow is the absence of light. Everything in creation is good within its own degree, but may become evil in relation to others. As Abdul Baha puts it, I quote, "Scorpions and snakes are evil, but only in relation to us and not to themselves. For their venom is their weapon, and their sting their means of defense. But as the constituent elements of their venom are incompatible with those of our bodies, the venom is evil, or rather, those elements are evil in relation to each other, while in their own reality they are both good," end quote. Likewise, human nature, which is twofold and includes both spiritual and material elements, is good by itself, but is fraught with evil because of the opposition between spirit and matter. Our physical body, which is good and perfect on the material plane of existence, and whose center is self-interest, becomes evil in relation to our soul, which reflects spiritual perfections and whose operation is driven by selflessness. Hence, our egoism or selfishness represents the inherent evil inside us, whose symbolic names are a legion: Satan, devil, serpent, beast, dragon, and so on. As Abdul Baha says, I quote, "The evil spirit, Satan, or whatever is interpreted as evil, refers to the lower nature in man," end quote. As a system of moral norms and guidelines, ethics involves two dimensions: personal and social. On a personal level, Baha'i scriptures affirm the belief in God as the source of moral virtues. I quote, "Know thou for a certainty that whoso disbelieveth in God is neither trustworthy nor truthful. Nothing whatever can deter such a man from evil. Nothing can hinder him from betraying his neighbor. Nothing can induce him to walk uprightly," end quote. This is a quotation from Baha'u'llah's Gleanings. Baha'u'llah instructs people to practice moderation and develop a good character, which is, I quote, "verily the best mantle for men from God," end quote. He admonishes his followers to, I quote, "fix their gaze under all conditions upon justice and fairness," end quote, and praises trustworthiness as, I quote, "the greatest portal leading into the tranquility and security of the people," end quote. Every religion has a key term that is exclusively associated with its core teachings. In Christianity, it is the notion of universal love. In Buddhism, that of no self or selflessness. The central concept of the Baha'i faith is the idea of unity or oneness. Baha'is distinguish three levels of unity: the unity of God, the unity of religion, and the unity of humanity. According to Baha'i views, our Creator is one, and the purpose of religion, which is also essentially one but progressing, is to bring people together. Primal religions unified families and clans into tribes. National religions of Judaism and Hinduism unite tribes into nations. International religions, such as Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam, provided to their followers a spiritual identity that transcended the ethnic, national, or religious borders. It has come a time, Baha'u'llah says, when humanity has to be integrated on a global scale. The social dimension of Baha'i ethical teachings, therefore, is unique and of primary importance for the believers. It includes the 11 principles that aim to guide humanity toward planetary unity. As enunciated by Abdul Baha in his Paris talks, those principles are as follows. Number 1, independent search for truth. Number 2, unity of humankind. Number 3, religion should be the source of love and affection. Number 4, the unity of science and religion. Number 5, elimination of prejudices of religion, race, and sect. Number 6, equal opportunity of the means of existence. Number 7, equality of all before the law. Number 8, the establishment of universal peace. Number 9, non-interference of religion and politics. Number 10, the equality of men and women. And finally, number 11, the progress by the power of the Holy Spirit. So when we open our floor to discussion, we may make some additional comments about those principles and discuss whether those principles are absolute or they have some exceptions. Now, a couple of words about political philosophy. The philosophy of politics examines various types of governments and asserts which ones are the most effective and humane ways to organize society. The founding figures of the Baha'i faith in their writings unequivocally stand on the side of constitutional government and the rule of law. In many of his tablets, Baha'u'llah denounces tyranny and absolutism while approving of consultative assemblies that give voice in state affairs to the people. In his epistle to Queen Victoria, Baha'u'llah commends the Queen for having, I quote, entrusted the reins of counsel into the hands of the representatives of the people, for thereby the foundations of the edifice of her affairs will be strengthened, and the hearts of all that are beneath her shadow, whether high or low, will be tranquilized. End quote. In another tablet, he writes, I quote, although a republican form of government profiteth all the people of the world, yet the majesty of kingship is one of the signs of God. We do not wish that the countries of the world should remain deprived thereof. If the sagacious combine the two forms into one, great will be their reward in the presence of God. Unquote. Baha'u'llah instructs his followers to obey their kings and governments. He writes, I quote, in every country where any of these people reside, they must behave towards the government of that country with loyalty, honesty, and truthfulness, end quote. Baha'is are encouraged to participate in public affairs, and especially to promote their social causes, such as racial and gender equality, interreligious dialogue, economic justice, etc. They are advised to vote their conscience, but are not allowed to be members of any political party. in order to avoid the conflict and contention that are embedded in contemporary democratic political systems. Now, let's talk about religion and state. When speaking about the differing domains of religion and politics, Abdu'l-Baha emphasizes that while, I quote, the ministers of state should be enlightened by religion, the teachers of faith should not invade the realm of politics, but instead should concern themselves with the spiritual education of the people, trying to serve God and humankind, end quote, also from Paris Talks. In the future, Baha'is envision the establishment of the lesser peace, a global commonwealth of nations where international conflicts and wars would be prevented by an international and independent supreme tribunal. According to Baha'u'llah's plan to form such an organization, the national assemblies of each country and nation, that is to say parliaments, should elect 2 or 3 persons who are the choicest men of that nation and are well informed concerning international laws and the relations between governments, and aware of the essential needs of the world of humanity of this day. The number of these representatives should be in proportion to the number of inhabitants of that country. The election of these souls, who are chosen by the National Assembly, that is the Parliament, must be confirmed by the upper house, the Congress, and the Cabinet, and also by the President or monarch, so this person may be the elected ones of all the nation and the government. From among these people, the members of the Supreme Tribunal will be elected, and all humankind will thus have a share therein, for every one of these delegates is fully representative of his or her nation. When the Supreme Tribunal gives a ruling on any international question, either unanimously or by majority rule, there will no longer be any pretext for the plaintiff or ground of objection for the defendant. In case any of the governments or nations in the execution of the irrefutable decision of the Supreme Tribunal be negligent or dilatory, the rest of the nations will rise up against it, because all the governments and nations of the world are the supporters of this Supreme Tribunal. That was a very long quotation from Abdu'l-Baha. And it is very important, I think, that when it comes to the future global commonwealth and the coordination or some forms of separation between religion and state, Baha'u'llah and Abdu'l-Baha give us only those general principles. But when it comes to the future world judiciary, the Supreme Tribunal, the plan is very concrete. And to me, it is very important because this is the foundation of a just society. Independent court in which all nations are participating is the foundation of the future just global society, because without justice in the courts and a good judicial system, there will be and there can be no justice. So on this, I would say, optimistic note, I'm concluding this presentation, and now I am opening our floor for general discussion. Thank you for listening.